Scene opens with sweeping, dramatic shots of vast, desolate Arctic landscapes, ice, snow, rugged terrain. Somber, reflective music begins. Narrator, in the annals of exploration, few tales are as compelling, and as utterly tragic, as that of Sir John Franklin's final expedition. It was 1845, the golden age of Victorian exploration, and the British Admiralty sought to conquer the legendary Northwest Passage, a sea route through the Arctic archipelago connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Sir John Franklin, a seasoned Arctic explorer, albeit one whose previous ventures had hinted at misfortune, was chosen to lead this audacious quest. He embarked with the cream of the Royal Navy, two magnificent, state-of-the-art ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, reinforced with iron plating, equipped with steam engines, and stocked with provisions for 3 years. 129 men, confident and determined, sailed into the unknown, never to return. Visuals shift to historical illustrations of the Erebus and Terror, portraits of Franklin and his crew, old maps of the Arctic. Narrator, the expedition was an ambitious undertaking. The ships were marvels of naval engineering, designed to withstand the crushing ice. Their holds were packed with 8,000 pounds of tobacco, 1,100 pounds of chocolate, 4,000 gallons of rum, and an incredible 32,000 pounds of preserved meat, mostly sealed in newly developed tin cans. Spirits were high when the expedition was last seen by 2 whaling ships in late July 1845, navigating through Baffin Bay. Franklin waved from the deck of the Erebus, a picture of Victorian resolve. Then, silence. An impenetrable, terrifying silence that would stretch for years. Visuals of a calendar flipping through years, anxious faces, ships disappearing into a whiteout. Narrator, initially, there was little concern. Arctic expeditions were lengthy. But as 1847 bled into 1848, and no word came, unease turned to alarm. Lady Jane Franklin, Sir John's formidable wife, launched a relentless campaign to find her husband, funding multiple private search parties when the Admiralty's efforts seemed insufficient. The world watched, captivated by the unfolding mystery. Visuals of frantic search parties, Lady Franklin's portrait, maps with dotted search routes. Narrator, the first tangible, chilling clues emerged in 1850, when 3 graves were discovered on Beechey Island. They belonged to 3 members of Franklin's crew, buried in 1846. The graves offered a glimmer of hope, at least some had survived the first winter. But the meticulous preservation of the bodies in the permafrost, and later forensic analysis, would reveal a disturbing truth: high levels of lead in their systems, likely from the poorly soldered tin cans meant to preserve their food. It was a slow, insidious poisoning that would weaken the men long before starvation or the cold took hold. Visuals of the Beechey Island graves, close-ups of preserved bodies, then historical tins. Narrator, the true horror of the expedition's fate began to unravel in 1859 with the discovery of a cairn at Victory Point on King William Island. Inside, a single document, a crumpled note, offered 2 terrifying updates. The first, dated May 28, 1847, stated that all was well. The second, scrawled in the margins of the same document, dated April 25, 1848, painted a picture of absolute desolation. It reported Franklin's death on June 11, 1847. It stated that HMS Erebus and HMS Terror had been abandoned on April 22, 1848, after being trapped in the ice for 18 months. 105 men, all that remained, had set out on foot, attempting to trek south towards the Back River, a journey of hundreds of miles across a frozen wasteland. Visuals of the actual note, or a replica, close-ups of the dates in handwriting. Shots of men trudging through snow, desperate, gaunt. Narrator, what followed was a trail of unimaginable suffering. Later search parties found scattered bones and equipment along the proposed trek route. Some bones bore stark, horrifying evidence, cut marks, polished smooth, indicative of defleshing and even marrow extraction. The stark conclusion, however grim and controversial, pointed towards cannibalism, a desperate, last resort for men pushed beyond the limits of human endurance by starvation and lead-induced madness. The proud Royal Navy expedition had descended into a macabre struggle for survival against the harshest environment on Earth. Visuals of human bones on the ground, extreme close-ups of cut marks, then wide shots of endless, white desolation. Narrator, for over 150 years, the precise resting places of the ships remained a haunting mystery. Then, in 2014, an Parks Canada expedition located HMS Erebus, remarkably well preserved beneath the Arctic waters. 2 years later, HMS Terror was found even further north, almost perfectly preserved, eerily standing upright on the seabed. These discoveries, while monumental, have opened new windows into the expedition's final moments, but haven't fully solved the riddle. The ships hold untold secrets, still guarded by the crushing ice and the deep, dark waters. Visuals of underwater footage of the wrecks, divers exploring, artifacts being brought up. Narrator, the Franklin expedition remains a frozen enigma. Scurvy, hypothermia, zinc deficiency, and most prominently, lead poisoning, all contributed to their agonizing demise. They were meticulously prepared, yet utterly unprepared for the unforgiving ferocity of the Arctic. Their final days, their unspoken fears, and the last, desperate breaths of 129 brave men are lost to the relentless silence of the high north. The wrecks whisper tales of a grand ambition swallowed whole by an indifferent wilderness, a chilling reminder of humanity's fragile place against the raw power of nature. Final sweeping shot of the Arctic, fading to black.